You know, I'll never forget the morning I realized I'd been losing my life one sunrise at a time. I was broke, discouraged, and working for pennies when I should have been working for fortune. But here's what really got me. I was sleeping through the most valuable hours of my day. While opportunity was knocking, I was still in bed. While success was available, I was hitting the snooze button. And the tragedy wasn't just what I was missing in those morning hours. The real tragedy was that I was designing failure into my entire day before my feet even hit the floor. Let me tell you something that changed everything for me. Success isn't an accident. It's not luck, and it's not about being in the right place at the right time. Success is a design. It's a structure. It's something you build piece by piece, habit by habit, choice by choice. And here's the truth that most people never grasp. The day you're living right now was actually designed yesterday. Better yet, it was designed this morning in those first precious hours when you either took control or gave it away. The difference between someone who's going somewhere and someone who's going nowhere often comes down to what happens between 6 and 9 in the morning. See, most people wake up as victims. The alarm goes off and it's an interruption. The new day is an intrusion. They drag themselves out of bed like they're being sentenced to another day of hard labor. And then they wonder why their whole day feels like punishment. They wonder why they never get ahead. They wonder why life seems so hard. But here's what I learned. You can't win a day that you start losing. I remember when my mentor, Earl Show, first challenged me on this. He said, "Jim, show me your morning and I'll show you your future." I thought he was exaggerating. I thought he was just being dramatic. But then he walked me through it and I saw the truth. He said, if you can't control the first hour of your day, what makes you think you can? Control the rest of it? If you can't discipline yourself when no one's watching, when there's no pressure, when you could easily stay in bed, how are you going to discipline yourself when it gets hard? When the pressure's on? When the temptation is strong? That conversation haunted me because I knew he was right. I was letting my mornings happen to me instead of making them happen for me. I was reacting instead of creating. I was being acted upon instead of acting. And the result was predictable. My days were a mess. My weeks were chaotic. My months disappeared. And my years were going nowhere. All because I hadn't figured out that the morning is where victory lives. Here's what most people don't understand about mornings. They think it's just about getting up early. They think it's about being a morning person or not being a morning person, but that's not it at all. The morning isn't about the clock. It's about priority. It's about power. It's about taking control of your life before your life takes control of you. See, the world is going to make demands on you. Your job is going to make demands. Your family's going to make demands. Your phone is going to ring. Your email is going to fill up. Problems are going to appear. Emergencies are going to happen. But if you haven't already won the morning, you're going to lose to all of that. You're going to spend your whole day reacting, responding, putting out fires, and dealing with other people's agendas. And at the end of that day, you're going to be exhausted, frustrated, no closer to your dreams than you were when you woke up. The morning is your time. It's your opportunity. It's your advantage. It's when you can work on yourself before you have to work for someone else. It's when you can invest in your future before you have to deal with your present. It's when you can become more before you have to do more. And that's the secret that successful people have figured out. They understand that the morning isn't just the start of the day. It's the foundation of the day. And you can't build a great day on a weak foundation. Let me share something with you that might sting a little bit, but it's true. Every morning you stay in bed when you could be up, you're voting. You're casting a vote for the kind of person you're going to be and the kind of life you're going to live. Every time you hit that snooze button, you're voting for mediocrity. You're saying comfort is more important than growth. Sleep is more important than success. Easy is more important than excellent. And the problem is you're not just voting once. You're voting every single day. And those votes add up, those votes compound, those votes become your life. But here's the beautiful thing, it works the other way too. Every morning you get up when you don't feel like it, when it's still dark, when the bed is warm and the room is cold, you're voting for a different future. You're voting for discipline. You're voting for strength. You're voting for success. You're saying my dreams are more important than my comfort. My goals are more important than my feelings. My future is more important than my temporary pleasure. And those votes compound too. Those votes add up. Those votes become a different life. I started getting up at 5 in the morning. And at first, it was brutal. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it was easy or natural or that I loved it right away. I didn't. I hated it. My body protested. My mind gave me every excuse. The bed felt better than it ever had. But I did it anyway. And you know what I noticed? The first thing I noticed was the quiet. There's a peace in the early morning that doesn't exist any other time. The world is still asleep. The phone isn't ringing. Nobody needs anything from you. It's just you and your thoughts and your goals and your possibilities. That quiet became sacred to me. It became the most valuable time of my entire day. But it wasn't just the quiet. It was what I did with that quiet. See, I realized that I had been filling my mind with garbage. I'd wake up, turn on the news, and fill my head with problems, disasters, and negativity before I even had my coffee. I'd check my phone and immediately start reacting to other people's needs and wants. I'd begin my day in response mode instead of creation mode. And then I'd spend the rest of the day trying to recover from that terrible start. It's like trying to win a race when you start 10 yards behind the starting line. You might catch up, but you're going to have to work twice as hard, and you're probably still going to lose. So I changed it. I started feeding my mind before I fed my body. I started reading instead of reacting. I started learning instead of worrying. I started thinking about my goals instead of thinking about my problems. And something remarkable happened. My days started changing. Not dramatically at first, but consistently. I found myself making better decisions. I found myself more patient with challenges. I found myself more focused on what mattered. I found myself actually making progress toward my dreams instead of just thinking about them. Here's what I want you to understand. The morning sets the tone. It establishes the temperature. It creates the momentum. If you start your day rushed, you'll be rushed all day. If you start your day reactive, you'll be reactive all day. If you start your day negative, you'll be negative all day. But if you start your day powerful, prepared, and purposeful, that's how your day is going to unfold. It's not magic. It's mechanics. It's how human beings work. We're creatures of momentum. We're creatures of pattern. We're creatures of consistency. And the pattern we set in the morning is the pattern we live all day. The wealthy man and the poor man both get the same 24 hours. The successful woman and the struggling woman both get the same morning. The difference isn't in what they're given. The difference is in what they do with what they're given. The successful person treats the morning like the treasure it is. The struggling person treats it like an inconvenience. The successful person invests their morning. The struggling person spends their morning. And that difference over time becomes the difference between a life of achievement and a life of regret. You want to know how to change your life? Change your mornings. You want to know how to reach your goals? Win your mornings. You want to know how to become the person you've always known you could be? Start by becoming that person before breakfast. Because here's the truth, you can't win the day if you lose the morning. You can't have an extraordinary life if you have an ordinary morning routine. You can't achieve exceptional results if you start with an average beginning. The morning isn't everything, but it's where everything starts. And if you get the start right, everything else gets easier. Now, getting up early is one thing, but what you do with that time is everything. See, I learned this lesson the hard way. I started waking up at 5 in the morning, feeling pretty proud of myself, thinking I'd figured it all out. But you know what I was doing with that extra time? I was worrying earlier. I was stressing earlier. I was filling my mind with the same garbage, just at a different hour. And my life wasn't changing one bit. That's when it hit me. It's not just about being awake. It's about what you're awake for. Your mind is like a garden, and the morning is planting season. Whatever seeds you plant in those early hours are going to grow throughout your day. Plant seeds of fear, you'll harvest anxiety. Plant seeds of negativity, you'll harvest frustration. Plant seeds of doubt, you'll harvest defeat. But plant seeds of knowledge, wisdom, and possibility, and watch what grows. The question isn't whether something's going to grow in your mind today. Something's always growing. The question is whether you're going to be the gardener or just let the weeds take over. Let me tell you what transformed everything for me. I started reading for 30 minutes every morning before I did anything else. Not the newspaper that's just a catalog of problems I can't solve. Not my mail that's just a list of demands from other people. I read books by people who'd figured out what I was trying to figure out. Books by people who'd been where I wanted to go. Books by people who knew things I needed to know. And something incredible happened. I started thinking differently. My problems didn't seem as big. My obstacles didn't seem as impossible. My goals didn't seem as crazy. Why? Because I was feeding my mind with possibility instead of starving it with neglect. Here's what most people do. They protect their bodies but abuse their minds. They wouldn't dream of going a day without food, but they'll go weeks without reading. They'll spend money on vitamins but won't invest a dime in their mental development. They'll worry about their physical health but completely ignore their mental health. And then they wonder why they're stuck. They wonder why they're not growing. They wonder why they're making the same mistakes, dealing with the same problems, living the same disappointing year over and over again. Your mind needs nourishment just like your body does. Actually, it needs it more. Because your body can be strong while your mind is weak, but you know what? You still won't go anywhere. You still won't achieve anything. You still won't become anything. But if your mind is strong, even if your circumstances are weak, you can change those circumstances. A strong mind can build a strong life. A weak mind will destroy even a good life. That's why the morning mental routine isn't optional for success. It's essential. The truth is, we're in a fight every single day. We're in a fight for our attention. We're in a fight for our focus. We're in a fight for our attitude. And most people lose that fight before breakfast because they hand the weapons to the enemy. They wake up and immediately check their phone, immediately look at social media, immediately absorb everyone else's opinions, problems, and dramas. And before they know it, they're agitated, distracted, and comparative. They're measuring their real life against everyone else's highlight reel, and they're losing. I made a rule for myself years ago, and it's one of the most important rules I've ever made. The first hour of my day belongs to me, not to my phone, not to the news, not to my email, not even to my family. That first hour is mine, and I spend it becoming the person I need to be to handle the day ahead. I spend it filling my mind with wisdom. I spend it thinking about my goals. I spend it preparing mentally and emotionally for whatever's coming. And I'm telling you, that 1 hour has been worth more than all the other hours combined. See, here's what happens when you win mentally. In the morning. When that first problem shows up at 9 o'clock, you're ready. When that difficult person tests your patience at 10, you've got patience to spare because you built it at 6. When that opportunity appears at noon, you recognize it because you trained your mind to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You're not reacting anymore, you're responding. And there's a huge difference. Reacting is what weak people do. Responding is what prepared people do. Let me tell you about a friend of mine who turned his entire life around just by changing what he put in his mind in the morning. He was a salesman, struggling, barely making it. Every morning he'd wake up worried about his bills, stressed about his quota, anxious about his future. And guess what? He'd go out and have a terrible day. He'd be nervous with clients. He'd be desperate. He'd be defeated before he even started. Then someone told him, and I think it might have been me, stop poisoning your mind first thing in the morning. So he started listening to positive educational material for 30 minutes every morning. Nothing else changed at first. Same job, same territory, same challenges. But within 3 months, His sales doubled. Within 6 months, he was the top performer in his company. Why? Because he changed his mental diet. And when he changed his mental diet, he changed his results. The mind doesn't care what you feed it. It'll accept anything. Feed it doubt, it'll grow doubt. Feed it confidence, it'll grow confidence. Feed it excuses, it'll manufacture more excuses. Feed it solutions, it'll find more solutions. The mind is the most powerful tool you'll ever own, but most people use it against themselves. They use it to rehearse their fears instead of their dreams. They use it to replay their failures instead of preview their victories. They use it to convince themselves why they can't instead of why they can. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can let your mind run wild, thinking whatever it wants, worrying about whatever scares it, doubting whatever challenges it, or you can direct your mind. You can aim it. You can focus it. You can tell it what to think about. And that choice, made consistently every morning, determines everything. It determines your confidence. It determines your creativity. It determines your resilience. It determines your success. The morning isn't just about preparing your schedule. It's about preparing your psychology. It's about getting your head right before the world tries to get it wrong. It's about building your inner strength before you face outer challenges. Because here's what I've learned. You can have all the strategies in the world, all the plans, all the goals, all the opportunities, but if your mind isn't right, none of it matters. A prepared mind turns obstacles into opportunities. An unprepared mind turns opportunities into obstacles. That's why winning mentally in the morning isn't just important, it's everything. Now let me tell you where most people go completely off track. They've got their mind right, they're feeling motivated, they're ready to conquer the world, and then they step into their day with absolutely no plan. It's like having a race car with a full tank of gas and no idea where the finish line is. All that energy, all that potential, and it gets wasted because there's no direction, no strategy, no target, and at the end of the day, they're exhausted from all that activity but haven't actually accomplished anything that matters. Here's one of the most important lessons I ever learned, and I learned it after years of working hard and getting nowhere. Activity is not accomplishment. Being busy is not the same as being productive. You can spend 12 hours doing things and still not move 1 inch closer to your goals. In fact, I've seen people work themselves into the ground doing things that don't matter while the things that do matter never get touched. And the tragedy is they feel like they're working hard. They feel like they're giving it their all, but they're working hard on the wrong things. I remember watching a man spend 40 years climbing the ladder of success, working 60-hour weeks, sacrificing time with his family, missing his kids growing up, all so he could reach the top. And you know what he discovered when he finally got there? The ladder was leaning against the wrong building. He'd climbed to the top of something he didn't even want. He'd achieved success in an area that didn't fulfill him. He'd won a game that wasn't worth winning. And it all happened because he never stopped to ask himself the most important question, am I working on the right things? That's why the morning isn't just for mental preparation, it's for strategic planning. It's for looking at your day before your day looks at you and deciding what's actually important. Not what's urgent. Not what's screaming the loudest. Not what other people think you should do. What's important. What moves you forward. What builds the life you actually want to live. Every morning, I sit down with a blank piece of paper and I write down my priorities for the day. Not everything I need to do that list would be endless. Not everything people want me to do that list would be impossible. Just my priorities. The 3 to 5 things that, if I accomplish them, will make today a winning day. The things that matter. The things that move the needle. The things that build my future instead of just maintaining my present. You know what I discovered when I started doing this? Most of what I thought I needed to do, I didn't actually need to do at all. Most of what was filling my day was other people's priorities disguised as my own. Most of what was keeping me busy was keeping me from what was important. And once I saw that clearly, once I identified what really mattered, everything changed. My days got simpler, my results got bigger, my stress got smaller. Why? Because I was finally working on the right things. Let me tell you what happens when you don't plan your day in the morning. Someone else plans it for you. The phone rings and suddenly you're dealing with someone else's emergency. An email comes in and now you're working on someone else's project. A coworker stops by your desk and now you're solving someone else's problem. And before you know it, the whole day is gone and you've been completely at the mercy of other people's agendas. You've worked hard, you've been helpful, you've been responsive, but you haven't done one single thing that moves your life forward. I'm not saying don't help people. I'm not saying don't be responsive. I'm saying know the difference between responding to life and designing life. Know the difference between being helpful and being used. Know the difference between flexibility and having no plan at all. Because when you have a clear plan, when you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, you can help people without losing yourself. You can be flexible without being directionless. You can say yes to good things and no to distractions. The morning planning session is where you draw the line. It's where you say, these are my non-negotiables. These are the things that must happen today. Everything else is negotiable, but not these. And you know what that does? It gives you power. It gives you focus. It gives you the ability to evaluate every request, every interruption, every opportunity that comes your way, and ask, does this serve my priorities or does it steal from them? I learned this from watching successful people, and here's what I noticed. They all have what I call appointment with themselves. They block time on their calendar for their most important work like it's a meeting with the most important client in the world, because it is. That client is their future, and they don't break those appointments. They don't reschedule them. They don't let other things crowd them out. They treat their priorities with the same respect they'd treat a meeting with the president. Actually, more respect, because their future is more important than any one meeting. But most people don't do this. Most people leave their most important work to chance. They say, I'll get to it when I have time. And you know what? They never have time. Time doesn't appear. Time doesn't multiply. You don't find time for important things. You make time for important things. And you make that time in the morning when you're planning your day, not in the evening when the day is already over. Here's another thing I learned about planning. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And most roads lead to mediocrity. Most roads lead to busyness without progress. Most roads lead to looking back on your life and wondering where it all went. That's why your daily plan needs to be connected to your bigger vision. Every day should be a step toward something. Every day should move you closer to who you want to become and what you want to build. I spend time every morning reviewing my goals, not just thinking about them, actually looking at them, reading them, reminding myself why they matter. And then I ask myself, what can I do today that moves me toward these goals? Not what I can do this month or this year, what I can do today. Because goals are achieved in daily increments, not in someday wishes. You become wealthy one day at a time. You build a business one day at a time. You transform your life one day at a time. And it all starts with connecting today's actions to tomorrow's dreams. The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't necessarily smarter than everyone else. They're not necessarily more talented. They're not necessarily luckier. But they are more strategic. They know where they're going. They know what matters. They know how to separate the vital from the trivial. And they make those strategic decisions. Every single morning before the chaos of the day has a chance to decide for them. Let me tell you about time, because time is really what we're talking about here. Time is the ultimate equalizer. The billionaire gets 24 hours. You get 24 hours. The successful entrepreneur gets 24 hours. You get 24 hours. Nobody gets more. Nobody gets less. The only difference is how those hours are invested. And most people don't invest their time. They spend it. They waste it. They let it slip through their fingers, and then they wonder why they're not getting anywhere. The morning planning session is where you stop spending time and start investing it. It's where you look at those 24 hours like the precious resource they are and decide how to get the maximum return. It's where you ask yourself, what's the highest and best use of my time today? Not the easiest use, not the most comfortable use, not the use that makes everyone else happy, the use that creates the most value in your life. I've seen people transform their entire lives just by getting strategic about their mornings. They go from scattered to focused, from overwhelmed to in control, from reactive to proactive. And it's not because they're working harder, it's because they're working smarter. It's because they're doing the right things instead of just doing things. It's because they've learned that success isn't about how much you do. It's about what you do and when you do it and why you do it. The morning is when you become the architect of your day instead of the victim of your day. It's when you design victory instead of hoping for it. It's when you take control instead of giving it away. And that control, that clarity, that strategic focus, that's what separates people who achieve their goals from people who just talk about them. That's what separates people who build the life they want from people who settle for the life they get. Planning isn't exciting. Planning isn't sexy. But planning is power. And that power is available to you every single morning if you're willing to use it. Now here's where the rubber meets the road. You can know everything I've just told you. You can understand the power of the morning. You can see the importance of mental preparation. You can recognize the value of strategic planning. And you know what? None of it matters if you don't do it. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. Plans without execution are just dreams. Understanding without discipline is just wasted potential. Let me tell you the hardest truth I ever had to face. I knew what to do long before I did what I knew. I had the information, I had the insights, I had the plan written down, clear as day, but I didn't have the discipline to execute it. And that gap between knowing and doing, that's where most people live their entire lives. That's where dreams go to die. That's where potential turns into regret. Discipline is the bridge. It's the only bridge. There's no other way across. You can't think your way across. You can't wish your way across. You can't talk your way across. You've got to walk across, step by step, day by day, choice by choice. And most of those steps have to be taken early in the morning when nobody's watching, when nobody's cheering, when nobody would even know if you quit. Here's what I learned about discipline. It's not about motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Some days you feel like conquering the world. Other days you feel like staying in bed. If you're waiting for motivation, you're going to have a very inconsistent life. Discipline is about doing it anyway. It's about getting up when you don't feel like it. It's about reading when you'd rather watch TV. It's about planning when you'd rather just wing it. It's about choosing the hard right over the easy wrong every single morning. The alarm goes off at 5 in the morning, and that's the first test of the day, right there. Before you've even opened your eyes. Your body wants more sleep. Your mind gives you reasons why you can stay in bed. Just this once, just today. You can start tomorrow, and right there, in that moment, you decide what kind of person you're going to be. You decide whether your commitments mean something or whether they're just suggestions. You decide whether you're serious about changing your life or whether you're just playing around. Every time you do the hard thing, you get stronger. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you build your character. Every time you keep your commitment to yourself, you increase your self-respect. And that compounds, that adds up. Pretty soon, discipline isn't hard anymore. It's just who you are. It's just what you do. It's as natural as breathing. But here's the flip side. Every time you break your commitment to yourself, you damage something. Every time you hit snooze when you said you wouldn't, you teach yourself that your word doesn't matter. Every time you skip the morning routine you planned, you reinforce the habit of quitting. Every time you choose easy over important, you become a weaker version of yourself. And that compounds too. Most people think they can discipline themselves later. They think they'll get serious tomorrow. They think they'll start after this week, after this month, after things calm down. But here's what I've learned: later never comes. Tomorrow never arrives. The perfect time doesn't exist. There's only now. There's only this morning. There's only this choice right in front of you. And what you choose right now is creating who you'll be tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. Anyone who tells you that discipline is easy is either lying or has never tried it. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. That's the whole point. If it was easy, everyone would do it, and it wouldn't be valuable. The difficulty is what makes it worthwhile. The struggle is what creates the strength. The resistance is what builds the muscle. But let me tell you what's harder than discipline. Regret is harder. Looking back on a wasted life is harder. Wondering what you could have been if you'd just done what you knew to do, that's harder than any morning wake-up call. Living with the reality that you had the information, you had the opportunity, you had the time, but you didn't have the discipline. That's the hardest thing of all. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, win that moment. Get up, feed your mind, plan your day, execute your priorities. Just for one day, do what you know you should do, and then do it again the next day and the next. Not because it's easy, not because you feel like it, but because your future is worth more than your comfort, because your dreams deserve your discipline, because the life you want is waiting on the other side of the choices you make before breakfast.